upbringing. And when I was about 10 years old, a lot of my friends from this church moved back to Nigeria.
Now, you wrote a very interesting blog post, and one that caught my eye, about fasting, and how we're very accustomed to fasting away from food. And you were kind of suggesting in there that perhaps there are some things that we might be more attached to.
That actually what you say is what's going to manifest in your life. So
recently you went on a retreat, and you spoke to some monks, and that was, I've been stalking you, girl.
Available on Amazon and also sold across Nigeria as well, because I know Amazon isn't great in Nigeria.
Yeah. Hi guys, welcome to My Chunks TV and welcome to another installment of Chit Chat with Mo, where I tell you guys about life experiences, I give you some advice and put my own spin on it. So today we have an amazing guest in the building. Her name is Abiola. She is somebody that I love. I've been following her for a while actually, but of late I've been very drawn to her posts, her blog posts, her tweets. They've just been very, very refreshing. But would you like to introduce yourself? What's your name and what do you do?
Oh wow, yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Abiola, and I'm a strategist. So I do like business strategy, marketing strategy, and I'm a writer. So I recently published my first book, Take What You Need, in November 2018.
You wanna share them?
And yeah, I do actually, I've got a copy with me. So it's available on Amazon and also sold across Nigeria as well, because I know Amazon isn't great in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So anyone can get it, and you can also order a signed copy on my website if you prefer that.
Beautiful.
So a little bit of promo, quick shameless plug before we get started.
I know, right? So apart from being a strategist and a writer, you're someone that's very into spirituality.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk us through what was the thing that kind of drew you to that side of things?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So yeah, the spirituality for me is really the foundation of all the work that I do and why I do what I do, and I suppose why I've been able to sustain it despite different life changes and like working challenging corporate job at the beginning and things like that. So how that happened was I grew up like a lot of maybe people from West Africa in a religious home, in a Christian home, but I just found it social most of the time. I know that I got really good teaching and a really good grounding, but I didn't think I really appreciated it, to be honest. And when I came back from uni, 1 year after I came back from uni, a friend of mine invited me to what I thought was dinner at her house, but it was actually a fellowship. And I got there and I was like, this is not what I signed up for.
Okay, yeah.
But I wasn't against it. It was just more out of my comfort zone. And from that kind of triggered a spiritual awakening, not just for me, but for many of the girls in that fellowship. And out of the abundance of that, I'd always had a background in writing. So I studied law at uni, and I was passionate about English literature throughout school. I was really good at it.
Yeah.
It's like the best. Honestly, it's like I nearly studied it at uni, but I thought, let me go down the sensible route and do law.
Yeah.
Which there's actually no difference, but you only learn that when you leave uni. But anyway.
Yeah.
So really being able to, so I just thought, okay, I'm learning all these things, and I feel like I'm discovering faith and my spirituality and my Christianity. Like it's more than a should do. Like Christianity is not a should do, it's a want to do. It's the thing that can it's changed my life, and I didn't think it would. So if someone like me who's grown up in that environment is learning all of this now, how much more someone who's never had that exposure at all?
Yeah.
So I just thought, let me just share what I'm learning. I didn't think I knew more than anybody else. I just thought, I'm really excited by what I'm learning, and I'm just going to share it and use the skills that I have, use the passions that I have to do it.
Now, you wrote a very interesting blog post, and one that caught my eye, about fasting, and how we're very accustomed to fasting away from food. And you were kind of suggesting in there that perhaps there are some things that we might be more attached to, that it might be more beneficial for our souls to fast from. Would you like to kind of talk us through that and maybe give them some advice as well, because I took something from it, that we can actually reduce my social media use in that 1 week, because that's something obviously that we do a lot in this generation. So yeah, talk us through that.
Yeah, that's great. So in our fellowship group, we've evolved over the years, like since 2014. But
so you still stayed with them?
Yeah.
So it was a good experience then.
Yeah, it's been a good experience.
Okay.
We've evolved in so many different. Like, there's a whole backstory, but yeah, it's been been pretty consistent since
Oh,
2014.
nice.
It's
That
been
is
great.
beautiful, yeah.
But a couple of months ago, we had the opportunity to hear from a slightly older couple in their 40s, them just sharing about life, marriage, everything really. They just kind of came to chat to us. And that's how the conversation about fasting started. And in that conversation, somehow I just realized that, okay, when I was younger, I thought, yeah, I'll fast. I love food and I'll fast and it will make a difference, and it did.
Okay.
But as I got older, it felt like I was just forcing myself not to eat. And it doesn't mean that I'm never not going to fast food ever again. I probably will. But just at that, when we were having that discussion, it made me think, okay, maybe it's more about our bodies or our, what the Bible like calls our flesh, which basically means like your human nature.
Right.
And I thought, okay,
Wow. Yeah.
Instead of fasting, what maybe in the old days was a big part of our human nature, so like eating mindlessly, I know a big part of our human nature now is consumerism, especially with like the internet and social media. So where in my life am I thoughtlessly, not mindfully, engaging in consumerism, and I'm just gonna go cold turkey for a bit and stop that. So I stopped basically like shopping on impulse. It was only unless I absolutely needed something that I would buy it. Even if I needed it, but I could go a week without it, then I would not buy it either.
Wow.
It was, you had to really, really need it. It couldn't be like the extra cookie that I want to buy like on my way somewhere. It couldn't be any of those little bits that you tell yourself you need but you don't.
You don't really need it, yeah.
And by controlling that impulse just for a few days, it made me more mindful in the choices that I made.
Yeah.
And I think it made me, and as you're remembering something that you have not been conscious of, so you've turned from an unconscious shopper, for example, to a conscious non-spender. You, every time you're about to buy something, you remember why you're not, and that then triggers you back to what you're supposed to be doing when you're fasting, which is not just withholding something from yourself, which is a lot of what spiritual practices say, but I think with Christianity it's not just what you withhold, it's also about what are you doing to fill that space. And there's biblical backing for that as well, which says, you know, when you clean up the inside of you, when you clean up your inner life, you actually need to fill it with good things. Otherwise, all the bad habits and all the like fleshy things that were taking up space before they return, and they come back to their home, and the home is nice and tidy. So you actually need to be filling it with something else, i.e. prayer, reading the Bible, and just being more conscious of God in the day-to-day, not just when I wake up in the morning and a quick prayer at night.
So it's more about like mindfulness and being purposeful with your actions and with your thoughts.
Yeah, I really think so. I think it's not used in those words like in the Bible or in a lot of Christian commentary, but I just found that I was being more mindful, I was being more intentional, and I had the choice where I was going to invest not just my money but my time, more importantly.
Amazing. So you mentioned something about making your book accessible in Nigeria. Is there any like reason for that? Why Nigeria especially? Because there must be many countries where books aren't really that accessible via Amazon and stuff. Is it because that's your roots, where you brought up there? What's your kind of talk us through your background and like why Nigeria kind of holds a special place in your heart?
Oh, that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that before. So I'll start just from the beginning. So I'm Nigerian. I'm half Yoruba, half Urhobo, which people don't know about me, so I thought I'd just share that on here. So like part of my family is from Delta State, and actually growing up in London, I grew up in London. When you go to Nigeria, they call you Oyinbo. I sound very British. But where I grew up and when I went to secondary school, I was the only black person in my year at school. So in school, I felt very black, but then to Nigerians, you're like very Oyinbo, you're very British. And growing up in a redeemed church throughout my life was basically like my touch point for being Nigerian. It was because redeemed is like entrenched in Nigerian culture. And then of course like my aunties and uncles and the food I ate and things like that. So I kind of had basically what most people would have, like a black British upbringing, a Nigerian British upbringing. And when I was about 10 years old, a lot of my friends from this church moved back to Nigeria. They went with their families and they went to school there. And I just didn't see them for a few years until sixth form. And then when they came back from sixth form, I saw them again and I saw a lot of their friends. And then I just somehow went to uni, met more friends who were like based in Nigeria, and now have this really unique set of friends who are British Nigerians, Nigerians, and then all the other people that I've met in the course of my life as well. So that's kind of the context.
Yeah.
And I think as an outpouring of that through social media, through digital, about 25% of my audience is from Nigeria or based there.
Yeah.
So I thought I knew that when I launched my book, people would ask for it in Nigeria, in Lagos.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a couple of bookstores that I knew of, one that was based in Lagos and one that actually distributed across Nigeria to stock it.
Yeah.
And they did, which
Yeah.
I was really excited about.
Yeah.
And the one that actually distributes all over Nigeria sold out of the book and asked me for more.
Wow.
So when I went back a couple of months ago, I brought some more. So you can find it on Roving Heights.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What's the Nigerian travel experience like for you? Is that...
Oh, I don't know about travel experience. That sounds
So I
like
know a lot of
I'm
people come back and kind of... Like I saw this blogger actually who's quite similar to you, but she's Ghanaian, and she visited Nigeria and she was saying that I don't miss Nigeria. Like it was, she doesn't. Yeah, she basically said, Nigeria, I don't miss you. I don't wish to come back. You know when someone just goes and has a really bad experience.
Oh no.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and Nigeria, I'm very, very in touch with my roots. I grew up there, I stayed there till I was 10. Literally 2 days after my 10th birthday, I was on a plane to England. Yeah. I remember it so vividly because I didn't want to come. So I do love my country, and I've never really strayed away from it, if that makes sense. You can kind of take the girl out of Nigeria, but you can't take Nigeria out of the girl. Is my story. So I do want to go back, but the horror stories kind of put me off and scare me a little bit. And even when I do raise up some sort of bravery, if that makes sense, something comes and like knocks it back down.
Yeah.
So I mean, firsthand from you, who's a creative and somebody who's quite into like their spirituality, what's going back to your country like for you?
I think so. My attitude to like pretty much everything in life is that there are challenges, but you just face them and it will work out. So when I think also it's quite a cultural thing for Nigerians, or I don't know whether it's Yoruba people or Lagosians, I don't really know, but somewhere in those categories.
Did you grow up in Lagos?
No, but like my parents did.
Okay.
So, and then most of the people that I'm quite close to are from Lagos.
Okay.
Or live there. And I think that we're very dramatic. We like to embellish things, so the good and the bad. And that's why there's so many horror stories. Not saying that they're not true, but it's just we also like to tell them because they make good stories. Yeah. So I just try to just take it with a pinch of salt. You know, that I can think of multiple people who grew up there, moved back, live there now. Everything's cool. People who never lived there and went back and for the first time, and everything's kind of working. I think it's just, you know, it's still a country, it's still part of this world, and there are different challenges that each nation faces. And I just think you pick your poison, you choose what you're going to endure and what you're not going to endure in terms of where you choose to live and work, and you go from there. But that's kind of my limited view anyway, because I've not ever lived there. Maybe I say something different if I move back, but that's kind of my approach. Otherwise, and actually on that same note, so I did an event in April in Lagos.
Oh, you did? Great.
Yeah, and it was related to my book, and I had 3 panelists with me, all of who live in Lagos, one of who had never actually come to school or work in this country. And he was saying, his name's Oref Akorede, and he was saying that actually what you say is what's going to manifest in your life. So he can tell us his own story and you guys can follow him, but what he was basically saying in the talk was that people complain so much about Lagos, and he moved from Ibadan to Lagos alone and to start his career, and moved away from his family and things like that. And his simple piece of like advice was basically that if you're constantly saying that, you know, Lagos is stressful, it's a struggle, nothing works, appreciate there's challenges and there's reasons why you would say that, but ultimately if you say that, that's going to be the only reality you experience. And that's why having that event in Lagos, it was important for me to have people that lived and work there specifically, not just live there like in their parents' house, for example, but actually trying to make a living, because their perspectives were quite different. And we had some other people on the panel who had a similar perspective, but what he said really stuck with me. And a couple of months later, I was at a wedding in France, and somebody who came to my event said, I remember in your event when he said this. So it had really stuck with people.
And life is really what you make it, be it in Lagos, the hustle and bustle of it all, or be it in London town, or be it in Japan if you choose to move there, for example. It might be the same experience if you choose to kind of command your environment. I believe so strongly in words and the power of thoughts, because that's what manifests into words, and that's what manifests into reality as well.
Exactly.
That is really, really dope. So I know recently you went on a retreat, and you spoke to some monks, and that must and that was, I've been stalking you, girl, and that must have been really freeing. I think in a world that's so like we were saying about Lagos hustle and bustle, and London is like another Lagos, but just in the Western world, and everything kind of moves so fast.
Yeah.
So, number one, why did you personally take that retreat? And then if there's some advice you can give to the modern day woman or the modern day man who's kind of stuck in this cycle of busyness, what's your advice to them on like rest, intentional rest, and retreating for a bit?
Yeah, that's great. So I had the opportunity to basically like go on this retreat and meet some Christian monks. Up until that point, I didn't even know that they were Christian monks, which might be ignorant of me, but I just didn't know.
I didn't know that.
And basically, they have like this open monastery where anyone can go. So if you live in England and you follow my blog, that's the first. If you're looking for a retreat, that's somewhere to go, and you literally you do what you want. You chill in the mornings. Some breakfasts were like chatty breakfast, so you go to breakfast, the monks would cook you food, you'd talk to each other, but some breakfast was silent, so you'd eat your food, but you'd eat in silence.
I saw this on my iPhone Kids.
Yeah,
They had a silent retreat where they weren't allowed to say anything.
Yeah. It's quite like bizarre, but then also because I'm an introvert, I was kind of happy not to talk to anybody first thing in the morning. So it's a great opportunity. And I think you can search them. Pretty much all nunneries and monasteries are open to the public, I think. So that's one point. In terms of rest in general, I'd say, and I have like a whole podcast on this, so without going into preacher mode, because it was something I actually shared in a sermon at church a couple of months ago, but I'd basically say that rest, we always say that rest is like, oh, take a chill day and like watch some Netflix and just relax, which is so true, but actually if you do that and you're constantly guilty or nervous about the work you haven't done, then you're not really resting. And I learned that for me, rest came with trust. Like rest and trust were the same. Well, not the same, but they came hand in hand. If you really trust that your life is going in the direction of purpose that it's destined to, if you believe that God is at the center of your life and weaving everything together for your good, then all the pressure is not going to always be on you 100% of the time. And the example that I used was in one of the stories that is quite common to anyone who's maybe had an interaction with the church, is basically just that the Israelites were in the desert very quickly. Like I said, I'm not going to go into like preaching mode, but the Israelites were in the desert and they were hungry basically. It had hit day 40. They weren't getting anywhere near the promised land that they were making this pilgrimage on. They were making this transition from Egypt into the promised land. So they were saying, oh, Moses, we're hungry. Can you do something for us? And God basically said through Moses, okay, I'm going to provide you manna every day. And that was all. Just go out in the morning and get the manna, and that's going to be your food. So the first day it happened, they got it was amazing, they ate it. But some of them, who obviously hadn't eaten for days, pocketed some extra manna for the next day, which is kind of smart, right? Though, because you think if you've been looking for a job for ages and then you get like a freelance contract, for example, like you're gonna try and do what you can to make it last longer, because you don't know where maybe your next check's coming from. Like they didn't know maybe where their next meal's coming from, but by the next day it had rotted, right? So it was kind of a waste of energy to go to the extent of taking 2 portions when you could have just taken what was around for the day, because that's what God had said. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that, I don't think like the Bible's saying don't save for a rainy day or don't like be pragmatic, but if God is saying take one for today, then just take it for today, because then on Saturday, or not Saturday because I don't know what day of the week their Sabbath was, but let's say the Sabbath was on Sunday, like it is in the Christian calendar in the West now. On Saturday God said, okay, tomorrow's the Sabbath, I just want you to rest with me, your family, chill. So today is the day that you get to take 2 portions. So people took 2 portions, but some of the extra smart people or the hustlers, they went out on Sunday anyway to look for more. And obviously they spent the whole day doing that instead of resting, and they found nothing. So it's like, for me, just that story was about their disobedience. So like later on the Bible talks about the Israelites being disobedient in the desert for a variety of reasons. And it was because for some reason, even though God had said something, they didn't trust. And because of that lack of trust and them looking at the physical situation around them, they took more when they could have just chilled and waited every day to receive what was essentially their daily bread. And they also went out on a day when God said, actually, you can relax.
Yeah.
And it was still a waste of energy. And for me, that taught me a lot about rest. That rest doesn't start with what I think I need. Rest starts with what is God actually saying.
Wow.
And you can only hear what God is saying if you actually spend time like in the Bible, in fellowship with other people, in prayer.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And that is a story that best believe I've read many, many, many times. As somebody who's pursuing God's call on my life, the whole idea of Egypt, wilderness, promised land is something that's been resting on my heart for a long, long, long time. And I've never heard that revelation before.
Yeah, same until I got it really
Yeah,
this year.
and it's amazing. And this highlights, I believe, why community is so important, because you get to have these conversations and you can read the same verse as somebody but get a completely different revelation. And that's just completely blown my mind, because in that scenario, it was the same scenario, but God gave 2 different instructions.
Yes.
And it shows how important it is for us to constantly be connected to him, to hear what he's saying next. And it was my pastor that was saying this recently, how Abraham, when he was asked to sacrifice Isaac, now if he had locked off his connection to God after the first instruction, which was go and kill your son, he would have killed his son. Okay, so we've been talking for a while now, so we're going to take a break and we will see you guys in part 2 of this conversation. Stay tuned.